All right, so because I am a curious cat or inquisitive quack, I researched the theory that I had from my understanding of Tourette's syndrome. As you are going to see in this video, I've mentioned how my understanding of Tourette's was, yeah, people might built out certain words, the swearing, of course, but number one, it's rare. I think I mentioned that, and upon my research, which I'm about to read to y'all, that was actually proven to be true. The swearing Tourette's the swearing Tourette's is rare. But also, these words aren't as random. These outbursts, these verbal outbursts, are not as random as people oversimplify it and make it seem, even upon this research. Now, because I don't have a human professional at the ready, I have ChatGPT at the ready, and I asked ChatGPT this question here. I'm going to read it to y'all verbatim. I'll try to share it on the screen as well. Are words said by someone with Tourette's syndrome as random as people make it seem, or is there a correlation between the word and their general vocabulary? ChatGPT told me a whole lot, and I will get to reading everything that ChatGPT said back to me. Words said during vocal tics in people with Tourette's syndrome often seems random to observers, but research suggests they are usually not completely random. There is often some relationship to the person's existing vocabulary, as I assumed was the case. Their existing vocabulary, their thoughts, as I also assumed, or environment. Number one, the first point I make. Most tics are not random words. The majority of the vocal tics are things like throat clearing, sniffing, repeating syllables or short sounds, repeating words or phrases. These usually come from sounds or words the person already uses or hears regularly. Number two, the swearing tic, as ChatGPT puts it, is actually rare. The behavior people commonly associate with Tourette's uncontrollable swearing is called coprolalia. Only about 10 to 15% of people with Tourette's have it. Even in coprolalia, the words are typically ones the person already knows. They often come in emotionally charged or taboo language. Not only do they know the words, but it's words that they say. I know the N word with the hard ER at the end. I know derogatory terms said about women, said about the queer community. I am very much aware of these derogatory terms. I don't say any of those terms in my daily lexicon. Well, I say bitch, but I call everybody a bitch. But the F word, F-A-G-G-O-T, it's not something I say every day, but I know what that word is, especially here in America. Let's put it that way. What it means in America. I know other terms as well. I dated someone who was from the Philippines, and they had a word where it was their equivalent of the N-word that people would say. I'm aware of that word, but I don't use that word in my daily lexicon. When I look at somebody from the Philippines, I don't think instantly of calling them that word. Why? Because I don't think of that person as that word. I'm going to continue reading now. I said, where was I? The brain tends to select highly familiar or socially loaded words, not completely random ones the person has never used before. Oh, chat just is cooking your ass. I'm going to read that again. That's important. The brain tends to select highly familiar or socially loaded words, not completely random ones the person has never used. As I stated with John Davidson, the N-word is something he's used before. He used it 4 times a total that day, and called it at least 4 different black people, or at least 4 instances directed at a black person. This wasn't a random person. He didn't go to a white woman and say that. He didn't see another white man and call them the N-word. He called it specifically at the black people 4 times, 1 event. It's not as random as people make it seem. I'm going to continue though. Number 3, because that was still a part of their second bullet point. Point number 3, contents and recent exposure can influence tics. Many people notice their tics are triggered or shaped by words they just heard, things they are thinking about, like seeing a black person and then calling them a racist or a racial term based on your thinking of black people. That's the example I gave. Chat didn't give that example. That's the example I gave. Stress or excitement, something visible in the environment, like being around racist. For example, someone might tic a word they just read on a sign or heard in conversation. Bubbles! Let me stop. Point number 4, why the brain does this. Tourette's involves differences in brain circuits that control movement and inhibition, especially in areas related to habit formulation, impulse control. I made that point as well. I said in the video, y'all gonna see, I said in the video that I believe, from my understanding, my little layman's understanding of Tourette's syndrome, was that there are the people don't necessarily have a strong filter. Impulse control really is the scientific term, or at least the more so, I guess, educated term, I guess. But that's what I meant. I was talking about an impulse control when I was saying their filter isn't there or isn't as strong as someone else's without Tourette's. Impulse control. I said that was a core thing. And here we have science and backing up something that I said based off of my observation of people with Tourette's syndrome. And again, I'm going to make it clear, I don't have many experiences with people with Tourette's syndrome. I've met 2 people in my life who've had Tourette's syndrome. And one of those 2 people, I didn't know they had it until they revealed it. The other person, it was obvious, but it was the body tics. It wasn't the capoeira version, whatever it's called, not to be disrespectful, but it's not that version of Tourette's that they had. They had the body tics. Right? That person also is the person who educated, the one with the tics is the one who educated me. And this was years ago. I was a kid still, a teenager. That person is the person who educated me on Tourette's syndrome. That person was the one who pretty much put it in my head. You know, partially me seeing how they reacted and just speaking to them was how I came to the conclusion words aren't when the word tics are not as random as society makes it seem. Even he said that years ago. But again, points, some bullet points being made in point number 4: habit formation, impulse control, language production. Again, I'll also have this link because you can share links to your little chat GPT chats. I'll share this link in the description box below for y'all as well, so y'all can have a point of reference of what I'm talking about and just information in general on how Tourette syndrome is. When a tic occurs, the brain can release a stored word or sound without the normal filtering process, as I stated in the video. The reason why I'm being obnoxious right now is because I know there's a bunch of folks who want to paint me as this uneducated nigga. As another uneducated nigga that don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. When this research, this little bitty research that's not rendering on the screen right now, but this little bitty research was done after the fact. I just recorded the first part. After the fact. Because I was so goddamn curious, as I always am, whenever I really want to know something, I really want to know, I get to researching like crazy. And again, I don't have a psychologist on like, none of the numbers on this phone are psychologists. I should have a therapist on this phone, but I don't. Ain't no therapist, ain't no psychologist. There's nobody with Tourette syndrome. I'm not in contact with that old friend anymore. All right. But, you know, there's no one who has Tourette's on this phone that I can directly call or go to and say, hey, can you explain this to me? No. So I had to go to ChatGPT, and this is what ChatGPT stated. It confirmed my quote unquote bias. But anyways, let's continue because I want to continue shitting on y'all. Yeah. I'm going to read that point again before we move on. When a tic occurs, the brain can release a stored word, meaning stored words just simply means words that's in your everyday vocabulary. Stored word or sound. Sounds are just everyday sounds that you hear or sounds that you're stored within your subconscious, you know? Without the normal filtering process. Normal filtering process is you being a racist fuckhead, seeing another black person and still restraining yourself from saying the N-word or saying whatever racist comment you want to make because you don't want to get your ass kicked. All right? That doesn't mean that you're in the right, that you're better than a John Davidson or anybody else. It simply just means your filter works and their filter doesn't. You're still wrong. Simple way to think about it is it's less like random word generation. I knew that, chat, but let's continue educating the people. It's less like random word generation and more like the brain grabbing a familiar word or sound from memory and releasing it involuntarily. In short, the words aren't usually random. They typically come from the person's own vocabulary. Let's read that again. In short, the words aren't usually random. They typically come from the person's own vocabulary, recent experiences, or emotionally charged language. It's already in their head. When they see a group of people, that conjures those emotions, even though the timing and expression are involuntary.